All right, we're here.
Hi, hi guys. It's your two poly chicks, Tiffany and Cindy.
Hi,
Hey
guys.
Cindy, how you doing?
Oh, I'm cold.
And
That's
I'm warm.
I'm cold. I'm cold, and guys, I might just get to yelling today because I'm tired.
Oh, well, my headset is way down today, so I,
My
I can't
earphones
really.
are in. My earphones
Oh
are
no,
in. I
it's
can't promise you.
still loud.
It's
Oh my
still
gosh,
loud. It's still loud. No way. All
like
right.
that. The tone you're speaking is fine right now, but
What?
hey, we'll get through it. Like I said, hot, cold,
I'm so
loud,
cold. This is New
softly
York.
spoken.
Yeah. This is almost January, New York. Everybody know New York
Mm,
be brick. New
yes,
York
yes,
be
I do.
brick.
I
It's
miss those days,
you
which
do.
is so funny. I miss those days because, having just hot weather and rain is. I mean,
Um.
it did go to the 40s. It did go to the 40s over the last
Ooh.
week. So yeah,
Ooh.
brr.
And look at
For
look
like,
at look at this hot water bottle,
oh man,
blanket, because this, in New York, even if you indoors, it feels sometimes like outdoors in the winter. New
yeah,
York got two
yeah.
weathers, hot and cold. That's it.
And
There's no in
spring and
between.
fall, it's the in
I
between
don't know
there.
anything about that because in the spring it's freezing and in the fall it's freezing. So in the summer it's just burning up. Burn.
Oh man.
So it's either
Oh
hot or cold. I don't know nothing about the in between in New York. New York. But
well, it used
anywho,
to be an in between, but that may be, been that may be
global warming.
caused by global warming and climate change. So
Yep,
we'll
global
see.
warming.
But today we're gonna talk about marriage. You remember that movie, Why Did I Get Married? Or Why Did I Get Married To? By
Which,
with Tyler Perry, or not
yeah.
with Tyler Perry, by produced by, directed
Well, he
by,
was in it. He
written
was in it.
by,
Yeah,
and acted by Tyler
acted in
Perry.
it. By the
So
way, which never really answered the question. By the way,
because there's so many different reasons. So
yeah, but they didn't even say one reason. Do you
well, I
remember a
mean,
reason?
you have to look at the implications, and that's the whole thing. There's different reasons. There's different reasons people stay together. There's different reasons people get married. So everyone has their own reason. And I'll just say, when David and I had gotten married, it was one of those things where I said, well, you know what, if I don't like it, I could just get out of it. And damn it, was I wrong. I have a friend in Jacksonville where I used to beat him up about it because he was going through a divorce, and it was taking like years. And I was
Years.
like, well, why can't
Years.
you just get out of it? Like, you obviously want to stay in this thing if you're still married. And he would be
Mm,
like, you just don't understand. And so going into marriage with the mindset of, if it doesn't work out, I can just leave and up and walk away, was completely opposite of what the reality is. So
major,
today,
major faux pas.
I was gonna say, if you don't know by the title, we are gonna talk about marriage, some of the benefits, some of the drawbacks, some of
Yeah.
the reasons people stay married, why they get divorced. And I'll just say, for to get married, it's what, less than $100 to get married in most of the 50 states, right?
Yeah.
So it's easy to get into a marriage and hard to get out. There are no prerequisites for marriage unless you're in the church where they say, you should do the
Uh-huh.
counseling, meet the
Uh-huh.
pastor, and all of that other good stuff. But I know that before there was like blood tests that you would have to take, but that was,
Right.
for
Many, many,
whatever
many
health
moons
reasons.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in some states, you have a wait period, like a 3-day wait period. I think we had to wait 3 days in Florida. Like, you get your marriage license, and then 3 days later, you can get married.
They want to see
But
if you lost your mind.
yeah, like, it just, I mean, to me, there's no, excuse me, there's no, like, you can get into it really, really easy. And unless you have 1,000 person wedding where it costs thousands of dollars, I mean, it's really inexpensive. We paid a few dollars, got a license, went to the justice of the peace, got
Oh, you
married,
got married at the
boom.
Justice of the Peace.
Yep, in
Okay,
Orlando.
okay,
And
okay.
5 minutes in and out, it's like you can just do
I's
it.
married
So
now. I said,
yeah, it's
I's
like
married now.
you could just do it. So one of the benefits, well, let's talk about some of the benefits of marriage, because
Okay.
people have this perception of marriage and why, that it's going to be so love. In some cases, it is like a lovely, awesome
About
union,
30,
but
about 30%.
and but there are benefits. So there's tax write-offs when you're married. You have tax benefits. You have health benefits. You're able to be like a health proxy, even though you can do that without being married, but you have certain rights as a spouse that you don't have as a boyfriend or girlfriend. So those are some of the benefits that I noted. And then back in the olden days, I keep saying the olden days because it was a status symbol, like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 50, 60 years ago, that you're married, or that if you weren't married, it was unacceptable. So some of the benefits were, like I said, you have, oh, and partnership. I shouldn't have left that out. That should have been the first one
Guys,
that I
wait,
said.
wait, Tim. I was sitting here and I was like, so David, jump in anytime when you get ready, because I'm sitting
Working.
there going,
Well,
so
yes.
partnership? No.
Yes, that companionship should have been number one. I should have said that first. But then you also have the tax cuts, the health benefits, the certain other things. So what do you
Taxes,
see as the benefits?
taxes,
It's a lot of financial
finances,
benefits to it. Yeah,
finances.
you get to
Um,
add your incomes together and qualify for more things. So
yeah.
yeah.
So guys, so I'm not crazy or anything. Me sitting here cheesing the whole time.
Mm,
I'm not cheesing because I'm crazy. I'm laughing because I've been divorced twice. And I'm laughing because I'm like, benefits. But there are. When it works, it works. And I think one of the benefits you probably mentioned like last, it is a good partnership thing, but also to go through the day-to-day life. There you have somebody to go through, to say, complain about your coworkers, to complain about whatever happened to you on the way to wherever you went to. You call somebody, hopefully you've married your friend. So you got somebody that you can bounce things off of, share things with. That should be your primary point of reference when you get ready to make decisions about your personal life. Like, you want to do something new, you want to try something new. This is a person
mm,
you have to bounce this thing off of. Um, During this quarantine time, you have somebody that you have, right? Look at her eyes. Look at her eyes. You
Go
got
ahead.
somebody to be with. This is just
All the
ideal.
time, day in and
You
day
got
out,
somebody day in
no break.
and day out, which is the drawback. But people
It
that
could be a positive and a negative. I'll
it could
say
be a
that.
positive. That's why you got to marry your friend, because you can be with your friend. I mean, me and you would probably kill each other after a little
Oh my gosh.
bit.
Day
Day
one,
one, after
arguments
we
all
finish
day.
debating, we'll get into it, and then we want to kill each other. So you got that. And then if you are a person that has, deep religious values, sexually, you can't be with somebody fornicating. You don't want to be fornicating outside of marriage if that's your belief system. So back in the day when I was in church, at this one church, people got married for sex. It was like, we can't have sex outside of marriage. So they dated
Mm,
for a very short amount of time, and then they got married right away. And then,
okay.
they're not, a lot of them are not together. And that's why they said divorce is very high in the church, because people marry, that's
Yeah.
one of the things they fantasize about, that's going to be so great, because they see these movies, they see, whatever, and they get permission to now be free with a partner. And then after that novelty wears off, you're stuck with this person. So I think,
Yeah.
take out the trash and stuff. Those are all cliches, but they're actually, legitimate. Like, to
Yeah.
go take your car to the shop, or to go, do the things you want your husband to do, and he got
Even
somebody to
though.
call. Even those things don't
Yeah.
pan out all the time, but
Yeah, I
those
was
are
gonna
some
say
of the
because I asked
things.
David to go to the store this morning, and
Don't start
that
her. Don't work
I
her.
wound
Okay,
up
don't poke the
I
bear. Don't
wound up
poke the
going
bear.
by myself.
Uh-oh.
So that's a
La
whole
la
other
la.
story. Go ahead.
Don't poke the
Go
bear. Don't
ahead.
poke the
But
bear.
one of the
Yeah.
things that you said about getting married in the church, and the sexual part of it, I feel like that's a component that should be spoken about before marriage, like just what the expectations of sex would be and should be within the marriage, especially if you're going into it without having had sex already. Like,
Yeah,
but then I guess
a
if you
lot of
don't,
people get married as virgins in the church,
yeah.
and
And I was gonna say, if you haven't had the experience, how would you know what to expect or what you
that's why
should
you
or
got
should not want?
counseling. That's why you have this person to counsel you. But I think it's a
Hmm.
taboo in the church to talk about sex, because they kind of want to go la 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 la. Yeah, there's this thing that makes babies, and maybe you have some fun, and
And have,
and you get
I
that
was gonna
scripture.
say, makes babies most,
Yeah,
that's like the second, or
yeah,
the most of it is the
is to
pleasure
have
part of
fun.
it, but
But what
that's
you get is that scripture that says marriage is honorable and the bed is undefiled. And
hmm,
so back then we just heard, about the bed being undefiled. But if you're not compatible sexually, that
yeah,
bed is not is maybe it's not undefiled, but you're not happy.
yeah.
Because we've seen people get married and the man doesn't believe in certain sexual acts, and then you're unhappy.
Or the
Um,
woman doesn't
or
believe
the
in certain
woman doesn't
sexual acts,
believe
and
in
then
sexual
he's not happy.
and
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
unhappy.
yeah,
So even though you say undefiled, meaning God is not looking down on you saying it's fornicating, it still could be something that there's these things in it. I remember back then there were questions that people had the church didn't really address, like, is oral sex wrong? Like
yeah.
those things. And so you have two people and you don't talk about it before you get married.
That's why I said that's something that should be addressed way before you get married. Like I mean, I know it's a taboo subject for some people, but that's one of the most important parts or aspects of a marriage.
So
When people, like you said, when people get married, that's one of the expectations is that you're going to have sex, or you're going to, and not so necessarily the sex leading to children, because that's not, in my opinion, that's not the only reason to have sex. Even if even as a Christian, I'm like, you get pleasure from it. So
yeah, it's
that's
natural. It's
something
a
that
natural
should be
act.
talked about. Yeah, it
Well,
should
you're not,
definitely be
yeah.
discussed.
Well, in general, in schools and everything, you're not really taught about your bodies and stuff. So you kind of got to figure it out from friends and TV. And so that's why that big issue. I mean, what are the main reasons people be getting a divorce? It's like money and adultery, and those things happen from being dissatisfied, you
Yeah,
know, being
yeah.
dissatisfied. So, but those are
So
the
so
benefits, right?
I was gonna say, so let's talk about some of the drawbacks. So some of the drawbacks that I noted is that divorce, like that's a big drawback for people. Divorce costs, it costs a lot of money. I mean, you don't see marriage attorneys running around, but I see a lot of divorce attorneys and divorce billboards and divorce, get a divorce for this amount, or pay less, or pay, this amount and you'll get this. And you have to have a specific reason to get divorced. You can't just say, okay, just like you walked in and got married, hey, I want to just get married, or hey, I want to just get divorced. You have to have specific reasons, and different states
By
have different,
states, yeah, by
yeah,
state.
for why you can get divorced. And not only that, you have to have money to get divorced. You have to file paperwork. It's much more than that $100 fee to get married. You have to complete a billion sheets of paper just to go ahead and get a divorce, just to
Oh,
go
you,
and say, yeah. And I mean, I was going through the process, and you've
uh-huh.
gone through the process twice.
Hmm.
David and I, we didn't go and get divorced, obviously, because we're still married, but it was something that was being considered. And just the amount of paperwork, and when you have children, with the amount of paperwork, the division of assets, the fact that I've worked on my job for 25 years, and being married to him, he would be entitled to half of my pension.
No
So
matter what.
that's a big, yeah, that's a big consideration. Like, hey, I worked hard all my life for this, and now this person that came into my life is entitled to something that I work hard for, or it can break it up. And
Hmm.
I had a conversation with one of my male friends about, the divorce and how it usually tends to favor the woman. When we look at custody of the children, we look at child support, when you look at visitation rights, most of the time, and even I was watching Pursuit of Happiness last night. I told you I was up until 3 in the morning watching it. When you look at it, just the shelter, they have women and children shelters, they have they have programs for women and children, but a lot of times they don't. Society does not cater to men, single fathers. So it's one of those situations where it's more catered toward women and beneficial to the woman. So that is a definite drawback to me, and to a lot of people that decide or consider getting married. So
I think we touched on them. Definitely, it looks like the man gets accused of a lot of things. Drawback is if you have an adulterous situation and the woman
mm,
is the one that did it and she gets pregnant, the baby's yours.
the baby is
Legally,
yours.
the
Yeah.
baby is the father's, whether he's the father or not.
Yeah.
Legally, he is the father. So that's one.
And how
Like
is
you,
that fair? How is that fair at
because
all?
that's an
Like,
antiquated law of, marriage itself being this thing of, you often wonder if the government kind of didn't want us to get married, especially minorities. Minorities was a whole nother situation. They really, during slavery times, did not let black people get married,
get married.
because
Yeah.
it establishes a family, which we didn't say was one of the benefits, but it is a benefit. It establishes.
Yeah.
So, and that line is, the kids see a life. I grew up with two parents. My parents were together until for 40, maybe 40 years. I know they're gonna correct me. Maybe 40 years until he died. Not they, because he's not here, but my mother will be like, no, honey, it was 40 years or nearly 40 years.
Okay.
And then so it's thought that you see that structure and then you go on to create that structure. And then the next, so we talk about Black generational wealth and Black generational foundations and structures. The breaking of the family, like as you see in the movie Claudine,
Was a big, oh my
was a
gosh, it
big
was a big,
success to
yeah,
keep Black people down, the breaking
yeah,
of the family. So when people are not together, that's like you're doing a lot of their work for them of keeping
yeah.
you down, because the family structure, it's financially beneficial, like you said, but to get out of it, and that's why getting out of it is so hard. Because
Yeah.
I guess back then, I don't think they counted us, probably not, but they counted the country as a whole. You can't have families breaking up. So make it hard for them to get out of it. If you made it hard for them to get in it, maybe less people would do it. But if you
Yeah,
made it
but your
easy to
point,
get out,
but the thing is with your point of, let's say the marriage with the
mhm,
female cheating on her husband
mhm,
and having a baby, that baby, he's legally and financially responsible for that child. How is that law? How is that something? And I think you touched on it in one of our other videos where we spoke about that's something that definitely needs
yeah,
to
I
change.
would
You
need
you
to change that. I
cannot,
have three
yeah,
boys. Mhm.
yeah, you can't hold someone responsible for the actions of someone else that had nothing to do with it. So I get pregnant. Now this child is my husband is responsible for my child that I had with my mister, or my, what do you call a male on the side? Like, I know it's a mistress.
Uh,
Is it a mister? I don't know. Whatever
it's
it
a side,
is.
it's a side boo, a side thing, a boo. Well,
So
it's
whenever,
antiquated, which is like a lot of the laws are antiquated, right? That's not the
Mhm.
only ones. That's just an example. A lot of the
Yeah,
laws are antiquated based on beliefs and mores of our country, family
yeah,
structure, which is hypocritical, because if you believe so much in the family structure, you wouldn't be trying to break it up with minorities. So you want to keep the Caucasian family structure intact and break up the minority structure. So it kind of is, it's contradictory, but it is the reason why you see that happening. Plus, as you will see on paternity court, the laws care about the
we love
child.
that show.
I love that. I don't watch, it doesn't, I don't know, I haven't seen new episodes, and I'm over it now. But I think at that point, what she used to always say is the laws are designed to protect the child. They couldn't care less about you and your happiness. It's about the
Yeah, but
child.
the laws, when you think about the laws, a child growing up with a father that's really not his father, or a man being responsible for taking care of him that's not his bloodline, his or her bloodline, that is, he's brought here through no fault of their own. But really, is that in the best interest of the child for the
Well,
husband to take care of him? Is that
they're
what
thinking
you're saying?
financially. They're thinking
Okay.
financially. This is a
Okay.
financial thing only. They don't care about your, because if that was the case,
What
they
if I
would
had a
make it
kid
a
with
law.
LeBron James? What if LeBron James was like my side
You
piece, and I
know
had a
how
kid
them
with him?
basketball
Like,
players be
and
doing
then I
themselves.
mean, David's gonna be legally the husband, right? Or the
The
father.
father.
Is that, are they gonna say, well, you know what? He's let off the hook now because you had a kid with someone that's
But
more wealthy,
even
or
if
what?
even if you weren't married to David and LeBron James really was the fathers get off the hook unless you sue them. I mean, look at what's his name? Is it Future? What's the guy's name that got all the kids running around everywhere? He got one with
I'm
Sierra.
like,
Whoever it
I was
is,
gonna
I think he
say,
got one with Sierra, but he got kids running around everywhere.
okay,
Literally,
okay,
there's some kids. I mean, the mothers have to sue to prove that you're the child's father. It's not like you don't just get to say you're the father, and then the courts are gonna go, okay. we're gonna demand that you gotta literally probably sue. I don't know what the exact law is, but it's not easy. So even if they say, if David could say, I'm not the father, it's assumed that he is because it's assumed y'all were cohabitating and doing the deed.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's just assumed. It's based on assumption, which a lot of the, there's a lot of the laws that are. Which leads us to our
Understood.
third point, which is about the politics of it. Other drawbacks we go on, which is what we said about the quarantine, and you're kind of stuck with this person all the time.
Yeah.
You got to consider another person. Me being single, I don't have to consider
Mhm.
another person when it comes time to eat. I don't have to consider another person when I want to sprawl across my bed, but ball again, I don't have to care about anything. When I want to make I get Daniel, I'll be like, you eat you some fries, and that's it. That's what we eating today. And I don't have to feel guilty
Yeah.
or anything and be like, oh, I have someone that didn't eat. I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And it's quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
To
And
lay across,
that is a
yeah,
big thing.
to
Yeah.
pass
Yeah.
gas, to do whatever you want to do, and don't have to be like, oh, I'm sorry, and oh, this, or who left this here, or who did that. Um, I'm pro marriage, which is weird because I've been divorced twice, but
And you said you'd get married again,
I
which
would get
a lot of
I
people,
plan on getting married again. I plan on getting
I
married.
wouldn't. I wouldn't get
You
married
wouldn't
again.
get married again? I
No,
do,
never again.
because I do plan on getting married again because I really don't believe in making a whole home outside of marriage, because that, having that, I guess, the legality of it, the connection of it. I do know what things went wrong.
Okay.
I think it's based on knowing what went wrong and doing. If you go into it with the right reason, I think it could work. If you go into it like I did, what you did, which was, I'll just get out of it, and I will get out of something. Mm-mm. And
Yeah.
yeah, if you go in
Yeah.
saying I'm getting out, then
Well,
you
I mean,
already screw
it's
yourself over.
well, I think when I say I went into it thinking, you think, well, you see divorces on the rise, and you're thinking, okay, well, what's the worst that could happen? The worst that could
Yeah.
happen is I'll get a divorce.
Hmm.
So when you go into certain things, you're thinking about what's the worst that could happen if I
Right.
entered into this situation, and that's kind of like what I did. I was like, well, I'll get a divorce, but the just the whole political part of it, the having to have a prenup or postnup. I have a friend that's going and getting a postnuptial, and it's like thousands of dollars just to get that done. So it's so many things, and I feel like I'm saying there's more drawbacks to benefits.
I'm listening to you, and I'm like, David,
Because it just
run,
feels
Forrest,
like,
run.
and the crazy thing is he knows how I feel about
Hmm.
the whole thing. And marriage, first of all, we're not even going to get into the ups and the downs and the arguments over who's going to cook, who's going to wash dishes, who's going to take the kid out. That's a whole separate thing, aside from,
Distribution of
but
duties.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, like, the political part of it, like, you cannot get out. And it's just with one of my other female friends that's going through a divorce or in the process. I'm like, if you win the lotto in the middle of getting this done,
Oh,
you're
that's what I
still
wanted to.
entitled
Ooh,
to
when we get to the laws around it, which is our really, this segues right into it.
50%.
Um, when I was doing my last, it wasn't with my, because I did both of my divorces myself, my own paperwork. It's funny. Um, you can't make any major changes while you're in the middle of a divorce. You can't
Wow.
buy any like major purchases on the credit cards. You can't sell anything, like start selling things off. I think they were saying that Wendy
You mean
Williams'
joint
husband.
assets, like
Yeah,
joint
yeah,
items?
the
Okay.
things you have, I think, isn't it, if you're married, isn't it all joint? Like,
I guess. Yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
because Wendy Williams' husband, I think he had started to sell certain things when just before they were getting a divorce, started unloading. I know when I
Mm,
filed mine, the main thing they were saying is that you can't change your health coverage because he was under my health coverage.
okay.
You can't change his lifestyle out of nowhere, pull the wool out from under him and say, okay, I'm taking this away from you, I'm taking that away from you. So
Okay.
that was very jarring to me. I don't remember that being an issue the first time, but the second time, yeah, there's a whole paper, an affidavit that you sign saying, I will remove all barriers to this person getting married again, and I won't change. I won't spin up the credit, run up of debt.
Okay.
I won't run
Okay.
up a whole debt because
But
it's joint now.
that's after you file, right? That's
Yeah,
after.
when you're
Okay.
filing for
Okay.
divorce, you
Okay.
don't. I also remember with my first one. Now he died right. He died pretty much
Like,
after. He
good.
died right after.
You're like, my first, second, and
My
third
first.
one.
They be teasing me. My family tease me all the time. They be calling me Black Jaja and all of that. With
And you
him,
said you'll do it again,
I'll
so
do it again.
to be
He died.
continued.
Speak quiet. So when he died, I wasn't entitled to the benefits from my job that I would have been had we stayed just married and separated.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I couldn't get, and we had kids, and I couldn't
Wow.
get that benefit because of that. I had filed for, because I'm not going to be dating people and they're going to be like, are you married? And you're like, yeah, kind of, or no. So I went and did the paperwork. So
Oh
that was
man.
and I remember somebody at work said to me, you sure you want to file that paper? Because, a lot of things change once you file the paperwork. And me being all stubborn and grown, I was like, I'm getting, because when I'm going out to date, I'm single.
Yeah.
And I do kind of regret that because we did miss benefits because of it. Because when he
Right.
died, I had to get I had to go look other ways instead of you would have just gotten straight up death benefit. Even if,
Yeah.
and remember, I don't know if were you at the job when me and you were at the job together, an employee died and she hadn't seen her husband in like 15 years. And when she died, she wasn't divorced and the family didn't have money to bury her and the government wouldn't release the money because he was the legal beneficiary.
Oh.
She had never
Oh
changed her
wow.
paperwork, so
Wow.
he was the legal beneficiary and they didn't have money to bury her. They had to take a collection to bury her. And then
Wow.
finally the family, they knew where he was. He was a drug addict, so they knew where he was. They just didn't want to tell him that she died because he was entitled to the money. Finally they got in
And
touch
he
with
was gonna
him.
smoke that up.
He did.
He was
He
gonna.
came in immediately and signed the paperwork and got the money.
Wow.
That was
Wow.
painful because
And
this was a beautiful
that's
woman.
but that's what I was gonna say. That's key to having your paperwork in order, having all
Yeah.
of your legal
When
documents,
you
your will,
married,
your
yeah, when you
yeah,
married.
everything in order. So that's a big point. But I mean, what are the other political implications or
Well,
you know,
you were talking about it before. I looked up New York State when I had to do mine. New York State
hmm
has 7 specific reasons you could get a divorce. And
okay.
it's like a breakdown of a marriage. It had to happen, I think, over a 6-month period or something. Cruel and inhumane treatment over a 5. They got time periods with all these things. 5 years
Yeah.
of cruel and
hmm
inhumane treatment, like really.
Yeah. You had to
Imprisonment.
sit there for 5 years
You had
with
to sit
that?
there for five
Okay.
years and be
Okay.
treated cruel. Imprisonment, 3 years. Um, Abandonment. I think abandonment had two parts. It had physical abandonment, where they physically just left you, and sexual
Okay.
abandonment. And that had to be, I think, over a year's period.
Okay.
What was the other one? You had to, I'm looking at what it was. It was what the cruel and inhumane. It had to be physical or mental danger. It just can't be he's mean to me.
Yeah.
So they get
Yeah.
to determine, like I'm looking at some of the other ones I wrote down. They get to determine what your grounds are for not wanting to be married anymore, which they didn't get to determine why you could get married. But
Yeah.
they got
And
to
that's the
determine why
thing.
you can't be married anymore. Adultery and
Yeah. Yeah.
separation agreement. With a separation agreement, there's two kinds. There's one, you file a separation agreement, and then after a year, you could be divorced, or
hmm
the judge actually can write a separation agreement, and then you live separate, and then you're divorced. But it's funny, they make the criteria, but they certainly don't make much criteria for you to get in it.
No, you
They
just
don't.
get that license and wait a few days and go ahead and
They're
get it
like,
done. Now,
Godspeed.
one of the things you touched on that I did want to talk about the Claudine. If you guys didn't see the movie, who's
Claudine, Diane
the
Carroll, James
Diane
Earl
Carroll?
Jones. Woohoo!
Yes. So with that
Yeah.
movie, it talked about a lot of the implications on the Black family and how it was kind of the system was kind of designed to keep a Black family apart or not have the male in the household. So what I wanted to say was when I was looking at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and Pew Research,
Mish, mish,
yeah,
mish.
the Bureau of BLS, and the Pew Research, it was speaking about the statistics for Black women being
Hmm.
married. And the
Oh,
marriage rate among Black women, among us, I
it's
mean,
really
we're, I guess
down.
we're, but it's so weird because, and I guess because most married people hang with married people. So, because I was going to say, I know most women, most Black women I know are married. Most women I know are married. But
Right.
I mean, and like I said, it's possibly because married people usually
Birds of a
tend to,
feather. Yeah, birds of
yeah,
a
flock
feather.
together. But they were among the lowest group of married people. They would get married later in life. They would um, they would not get married or have a higher divorce rate, and that was among Black women. And it was like I didn't write the number down, but it was a significant difference. And I wanted to just ask what you thought was behind that. I always say, and there's nothing wrong with being a strong Black woman. There's nothing wrong with being able to do for yourself and having your own, which I prefer to have my own, and then have someone come in as a partner and help build on what I've already built. But what's behind that gap within marriage among Black women versus,
Well,
let's say, white or
I, s-
Latino?
I saw this a black woman. I think she's an economist. She had put up. She may not be. I don't know. It was. She did a long, extensive article. I thought it was really good. Um, she was saying that we tend to be more educated, like going getting bachelor's, masters, and we tend to look for that in someone. And we tend to have a different criteria of being financially stable. We have this list that we go down.
You
Um,
mean for men to find a spouse, like to
yeah,
look
to find
when you're
our
looking for a spouse?
criteria.
Okay,
Yeah, it might not
okay,
seem like that. They might be saying we take anything, but it from what I read of her study, she actually did a real study, sir, all this research, and it found we tend to look for people that have the same educational level that we have,
okay,
and our political, we're obviously known as being politically strong, voting and all that kind of stuff. So those women tend to be very aware and woke, and
okay.
maybe waiting longer to get married until we get established and find somebody of that thing. And then when we finally realize we do want to get married, the pool is very small,
It's
because yeah,
slimmer. The
it's like
pickings are
now for
slimmer.
me in dating, some people you meet, men, have the same, if they have the same educational level, they don't have children. And so now you're looking at me saying I want children,
Hmm.
and I'm like,
Yeah,
but I'm done.
yeah. Like done, done.
i'm
That's
50 in
and
i'm
that.
50 in a few days. I'm
It's
50
like,
plus, today's the 59th, and I was
yeah,
50 on the 12th, so I'm 50 in
yeah,
2 weeks plus, so it's not happening. And my
yeah,
kids are older, so not looking to have children. So that's one of the ones I've seen from a lot of women, and even some males that I have spoken to said that the women that they currently want to date don't want children, and they want children. That actually,
yeah.
you can identify with that, going, especially when you date in the South and stuff. The very
Oh
family
yeah,
oriented men, they want children, and you're
yeah.
done with children. And if
Yeah,
you,
I
when
was
I did,
I was done
yeah,
with children. I
you were
was
done.
15. Wait, I wasn't 15.
You weren't.
Man was 15.
Yes, you weren't
Man was
15, guys.
15
Mhm.
when Donovan was born. And I mean, we everyone knows that Donovan, I mean, you have sex and sometimes it's makeup sex, sometimes it's angry sex, and part of that having sex can lead to having a child. Even when you're
Look at
like
that. Who knew?
not even, I mean, we were like hating each other,
Mhm.
full on hating each other, and Donovan was conceived.
Yeah,
But I
that's
thought
when it happens. Mhm.
I was gonna say, I was gonna say one of the things that was a contention in our marriage was the child aspect. He wanted children. I didn't. My son was 15. I'm like, I have a grown son. I can go and do what I want. And that's a big contention as well. But I think with just, let's say, women in general and getting married in general, I think the women's liberation played a big part in, the decline in people getting married.
Yeah.
The sexual revolution, the fact that I can go out and have sex with whoever I want to have sex with, and it's not. I mean, society still shuns women for being
I'm
sexually
not a
free.
hoe.
Yeah, sexually free. I'll
Yeah.
say sexually free. I like to say sexually free and explorative, but
Mm,
society still in some ways shuns women for doing that. But it's less of a stigma now. So when you
right.
add that, I don't have to get married to have sex. I don't have to have a man to be able to have a full life. So that I think that contributed to the decline. And then also gender role changes. The
Oh, I was
gen
gonna.
not
You stole that
not
one from
I
me.
was gonna say
Uh-huh.
not gender change, like changing man versus
I
female, like
mean,
a
gender
man into
responsibilities, the image of
right.
gender. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I
Yeah.
know a lot of stay-at-home dads that contribute to the household in a different fashion than what was deemed the appropriate way 50 years ago. So I think those changes, couple that with the liberation and the sexual revolution and just the cultural norms in and of itself, cohabitating wasn't acceptable 60 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
It now, I mean, and divorce when you got a divorce, it was looked at as you were like, shunned, or whatever the word is.
Yeah.
You were looked at like, oh, you got divorced. And
Yeah.
now those things are cultural norms, not saying that they're good or bad, but it's something that's more acceptable. And when you say and I'm going to switch back to what you were saying with the pool, the pool of men. I think once you get older, I don't know if the pool dwindles, and that's on either side, because like I said, it's so funny that you are. Oh, I'm salivating. I'm getting
Look,
hungry,
look.
but
She spit my
oh,
eye, guys. She
my
spit
god.
my eyes. She spit my
but
eye.
but you're like, when I juxtapose you and one of my male friends from New York, he has the same thought process on the other side, that the pool of women is very
Quality women.
slim. Yeah,
Quality women.
quality. And that's
Quality
the thing,
women.
quality, where they can bring something to your life, where you
Hmm.
can bring something to their life, and you can build on something. The pool gets smaller and smaller as you get older.
Hmm.
And it's just, I don't know. I think you couple all of those, the liberation, the revolution, the gender roles, and then you just have a clusterfuck of why people are not getting.
Oh, what?
Isn't
No. When I
that
read
a word,
the,
clusterfuck? I gotta look that up.
it sounds like you said something else.
Cluster, is it clusterfuck or cluster flock?
And she said it again and again.
Sorry. Go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead.
shit.
I'm gonna look that up.
So,
Or
what
flock.
I was gonna say, a few things when you talked about with Claudine, it was
Hmm.
like the government will not give you subsidies when you are a couple. They like to give a single woman benefits. Because I remember when, with my first marriage, because I married when I was like 9 years old. Guys, not really, but I was really young. Um,
Yeah.
that's the other running joke in my house
No,
about how young I
I was
was when
gonna
I got
say,
married. Yeah. So got
man.
married so young, and he wasn't making a lot of money. So we went down and applied for welfare, and we had jobs, and we made like $10 more than the criteria, and the criteria was like $100. You couldn't make more than $100 a week to get it. I think it was $108, and we made something like $120 a week because I was on maternity leave or something like that happened, and it was some ridiculously low number. And so with Claudine, this guy, she met him, he's giving her all these nice gifts. She has to hide them from the welfare lady. She has to hide the fact that she has a boyfriend, that he gave her a toaster, a oven, or this and a that. And the government is like that even now today. It's just the criteria
Hmm.
is different, but it's still the same. They punish you for being married, filing joint, married, filing separate is a punishment. It's a
Yeah.
penalty. You lose out on all your benefits if you marry and decide you want to file two separate returns. So I wanted to touch on that part, but also with the disinterest now in marriage, the millennial kids, the baby boomers, have a whole new definition of sexuality and of
Hmm.
marriage. They're doing throupling. They're like, okay, I could date two guys and it could be three of us in a couple or whatever it is now. And they're like, we're fluid. They call themselves fluid. They're less traditional. And then in terms
Hmm.
of the study that I talked about, we can put it somewhere, maybe in a link or something. If you're really interested, you can email. But she talked about gender strife, which is the real conflict between black women and white and black men. You notice that, right? Like even with Snoop calling Gayle King a B,
Yeah.
and how all like a lot of the black men they're saying call black women names and stuff, and it's okay, but they don't treat other races of women the same way. So it's this image of the black woman, and it's caused the reason why there's trust issues and strife between the black man and the black woman, a power struggle between them, and
Mm.
obviously jail. So prison has made a lot of, she did this part where she talked about prison, how some of the women that were interviewed who had partners that were in jail, and how the government charges you so much money to even talk to them on the phone. So like the kids couldn't talk to the parent on the phone for more than this girl was like, she spends $500 and $600 a month just on him being able to speak to his child.
What do
Stuff
you
you
mean?
don't
While
think
from
about.
prison, like
Yeah, if you
while he
call, it's like,
okay.
yes,
Wow.
minutes. It's I didn't even realize that. So she was talking
They
about
must be
that, and
talking a lot because I'm
they
like I
must
have
no, they
a
charge you. She
sibling.
said it's like something per minute, like let's say $2 a minute or whatever. But if you talk 2
Yeah.
times a week or 3 times a week and you talk for 30 minutes each time, I mean, we could talk 30 minutes about just what our eyebrows look like, right?
I was
Like,
gonna say
so
maybe it depends on where she's at because
yeah.
I know a lot of the calls have changed.
Yeah, they
The call
doing a lot of
structure in
things
the calls.
now. They're
Yeah.
doing a lot of things now. They were talking about that. They're doing a lot of things now to address the fact, because they said it's some kind of almost like a monopoly on it, or some kind of
Yeah.
a scam going with the phone benefits and all of that. But prison in general, the men are coming out of prison not interested in girls anymore.
Mm, I,
So
well, I was gonna say I haven't heard that
yeah,
but
she did that part on there talking about, they come
yeah.
out different. And so
Okay.
when they're coming out of prison, they got that prison mental, and women are educated
What
and taking care of
percentage is
themselves.
that? We got to look that up because what
Yeah,
percentage is coming out
it's
like
not as big as the other parts of it, but it's
okay? Because
all
I'm like,
factors. No, it's not like there's not one thing to, there's like, she did like
yeah.
financial, she did economics, education, prison, you know, there's all these
Okay.
things that lead to women, black women, choosing not to be married. And the one big one she said was trust, though, like the breakdown
Okay.
in the actual relationship between men and women, so that women are
Okay.
not trusting of men anymore, and they're choosing not to be married,
Well,
becoming bitter and sour from previous relationships and not wanting to be married.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's one thing. I mean, well, I'll say three things. Being bitter doesn't do anything for you or for anyone else. Like, okay, it didn't work out. Something happened. They did something wrong, or you did something wrong. It just didn't work out.
Mhm.
Move on with your life and try to find something to do that's
Well, you met
better,
me in a bitter
or
place,
learn from.
though.
But learn from it. I mean, to me, the bitterness holds you in a certain place where you can't
Right.
function and move forward, and that's not healthy. So but that was all I was going to say about that part. But the Claudine part, I do have to push back on the fact that if you have a boyfriend buying you toasters and microwaves and refrigerators and TVs, do you really need the government to subsidize your living? Like, instead of getting a
Yeah,
TV,
you can't
maybe
pay your
food.
rent with a TV.
Well, you could pay your rent with the money that you bought used to buy that TV.
Well, no, I mean, he's giving her stuff that he found. Like, he's a garbage.
She needs a place to live.
Her,
Oh,
he's
okay, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
you, but
he's
yeah,
giving her, like,
but it was
ain't no man,
also he
yeah,
was helping, wasn't he helping with
her
some of the
stuff that he was cooking dinner. He was taking her out to dinner and
okay.
stuff. He
Gotta
was
watch.
giving
I gotta
her like
actually TiVo
he was
that.
giving her like, let's say, a broken toaster, and he fixed it. He was giving
Okay.
her. He was just helping her to improve.
I'm
He
gonna
see the
watch.
iron. He see the iron broke, and he give her a new iron. I mean, that
Okay.
can't pay your rent. Like, that
No,
can't pay your rent.
but okay, so let's Claudine is like I want to say
'70s.
it touches on some of the things, but you know and I know that we know people that have a whole slew of stuff that wasn't
Well, welfare is
fixed.
different now. Welfare is
Yeah.
different now. Welfare is, I mean, they're gonna directly pay. I don't know. They're gonna
Okay.
directly pay the rent, I guess, to the place, and you're gonna get the EBT card, and there's scams going on with that. Like I could go in the store
Yeah.
and buy people's things and they give me the cash. So
Yeah.
there's going to be a scam anywhere you go. But for the government to think that somebody giving you $100 a month is really money they should take back from you so you can't improve yourself. Now,
No,
all
not necessarily that you
nationalities,
can't improve yourself. Not necessarily. I'm saying that if okay, so the government, we know, and this is way off topic, but we know that
you know how we
the
roll.
tax dollars, yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
tax dollars are what's contributing to the food stamp program, the
Mm-hmm.
welfare program. So you would think that if someone had extra, they would use that extra to fill in the gaps to where they need to have fill the gaps filled in, if that
But
makes
it's
sense.
not going
Like,
to lead to, it's not going to lead to wealth. It's not going to lead
no.
to some sort of generational wealth. It'll put you over the top for now. It'll put you over what he did for her, and what somebody might do for you might help you this month, like the
Mm-hmm.
$600 stimulus. Is that going to put
Mm-hmm.
you over? That's why they're bickering over the stimulus. We don't want to give people money to
No.
not work. We don't want them to have this and make them get comfortable not working. Well, boo, you put us out of work. That's number one, with this
Mm-hmm.
handling of this mishandling of this pandemic. And then number two, $600. Where are you really going with that? You're not going to get rich. And if you're giving me $600 that you haven't given me since April or May,
Yeah.
now I'm really in the hole anyway. So
You're
somebody
way
on
in the hole, but
welfare is in the
but
hole.
I'm right, but I'm saying that you when you're in the hole, when I'm in the hole, I don't think to go and buy excess. I think of
Right.
digging myself out of the hole with the things that I need, my
But you
necessities.
still
That's
need
all I'm
food,
saying.
right? So
Right, you
he
still
gave
need
her,
food. You
right,
still need. And I'm not saying just in the court, because I gotta watch that movie again. I'm
right,
not saying in the
mm-hmm,
court, just that court where somebody's helping by
right.
fixing something in your house. I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
where there's excess being spent on extra, let's say, extra stuff that you don't need, extra stuff that's not food, that's not paying
Right.
toward
No,
your
I
rent,
get that, but I don't
extra
think when
stuff.
the government is holding back money because you were married or not married, or they didn't think,
Hmm.
I don't think when they're holding it
Yeah,
back,
back to the marriage.
they're looking at right. That's what I'm trying to bring it back around.
Yeah, yeah, go 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 go.
I don't think that they're trying to stop you from excess. I really do think there's this subliminal, subtle, whatever it is, way of keeping certain people down, keeping these on the top and these on the bottom. So there's always these because believe me, they don't mind when they're getting corporate subsidies. They don't mind
No,
when they're getting stipends. They don't mind when they're getting bailouts. They don't mind when they're getting tax cuts.
well,
And
they
we've
get the
done
most.
big. They get the
I was
most.
gonna
They have
say they get the
lawyers to
most
debate it
bailout.
and fix it
They
for
get the
them.
most.
They
They
get
get
the
the most
most.
tax write
They don't
off. They get
mind.
the most bailout. They get
They
the
don't
most
mind.
stimulus. They get the
Right.
most of everything.
And this is
But
what Cuomo was saying about like people like Mitch McConnell saying, let the states file for bankruptcy if they can't afford COVID, the stuff related to COVID. Meanwhile,
mm,
Cuomo's point is like New York pays the most in taxes. New York, California, big states pay the most in taxes and
yeah.
take the least out. We put in, so we give you money. He's like, we give you money. You don't give us money. So with welfare, I worked for 30 something years. If I want to go apply for welfare right now, give it to me because I've been working and carrying this country partially on my back, as you are. You've been 20 something years in your job. We've all been working. Most of us do work. And so you come on hard times and they want to stand over you. And that's one
See,
detriment.
but that's the difference. I like you, and we have to have a whole subject about this because I feel like there's a difference between having hard times and trying to make it through versus having it as a lifestyle or as this is your way of life. Like
Mm.
this is not,
No,
that's
I
all
get
you're
it.
gonna
And
do. That's all.
believe me, Black people are tagged with welfare. But where I live and what I know, it ain't
Hmm.
Black folks tagging up welfare. It isn't.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
not. We're not.
You have business owners that's on welfare. I mean,
Business owners, you have
you
whole sects
have,
of
yeah,
people, religious groups
yeah,
and stuff take advantage of
yeah, yeah.
welfare. Some of them I've seen documentaries on, brings it back to marriage. In Utah,
Yeah,
polygynous
let's stick back
marriages.
with the marriage.
I
Go,
know.
go, go.
But even when they were saying in the polygynous communities in like Utah and stuff, those people get welfare.
Yeah,
And
they get
you're
a food
paying
stamp.
for people to have 10 wives, 39, 40
And so,
children.
but that was my whole thing. I'm like, I don't want to pay for someone to live better than
Well,
me.
you
I'm
are.
sorry.
You are.
And I don't want to. And that's
Well,
with
we're
the
paying for
rich.
our
That's
senators to
I
live
was gonna
better
say
than us
that's with the
too.
rich people. That's with the bank bailouts when they buy yachts. That's with anyone. The big person versus and the small person. I
Yep.
don't want to pay taxes that don't contribute to, like, of course taxes are good for fire department, police department, schools, all of that stuff. Fine, I'm
Right.
cool with that. It
Which
helps
always
benefit
need
me,
help,
but
which
that's a
always
whole other thing.
which those things the money go to, and they always are the least treated. Like the
Yeah,
money doesn't go
yeah,
there first. The money doesn't
yeah.
go there first. But when we talk about, when we talk about marriage, the institution of marriage, part of it,
Thank you for
the con
continuing to bring it back because we are.
how I do.
Go ahead, go
You
ahead.
guys can trust
Because
me.
we're
Loud as I wanna
about
be.
to close out. We had like one or two more things to hit
Well,
on.
we
Go
can
ahead.
just
Go
this
ahead.
one fell swoop of why people stay married and why people what was it? Why people stay and why people don't stay. Like, why are you staying? I think it's basically the bottom line of that one is cheaper to keep her. Like they say her, but you talked about it with your pension. I heard of another person lost half of their pension when they got divorced. Things you don't realize when you're getting married is that
Hmm.
whatever you own, especially if you're in a state like no fault states where they don't
California.
care
Yeah.
who was at fault.
Yeah.
You're getting 50-50. I don't care if he ran you over and cheated on you and the girl was in your bed when you woke up in the morning. And you had pictures of
Wow.
it,
Wait, why
selfies.
you woke up when you woke up like they were doing it while you woke
Yeah,
you when
right
you woke
there.
up
I
and you're
don't
like,
care.
oh
I don't
God.
care. It's like it's
Oh
50-50,
man.
no fault. So
Okay.
that's like a lot of the reasons why people stay married. But I think also people
Hmm.
stay married on the books because it is tedious to get a divorce. It is at minimum, and that's if you know how to do your own paperwork, a thousand
Yep.
dollars.
Yep.
A
I found
thousand
out the
dollars
hard
if
way.
you know how to do the paperwork, if you know how to
Yeah.
help the lawyer out. But if you
I
want to
found out the
retain the
hard way.
lawyer, yeah, you're gonna
Yeah.
find out. To retain them, they're gonna go down to the court, they're gonna file your papers. When I went to file my papers,
Hmm.
they treated me like garbage. They were like, "Who
Man.
are you, Miss Pickaninny? In here, can we help you?" And you know how I do, ghetto and intelligent. I was like, "Excuse and me. I want to file this here. I got this. I got." She went through my paperwork. My paperwork was fine. Where I needed
Wow.
help was the child support. We did
Mm.
not want to do that through the court system and have the man all up on our back. But when you're filing for divorce, they make you stick it to each other, kinda, because that's where it
Wow.
starts getting
Wow.
contentious. When it's like, "Oh, you taking me for," you can't tell a black man you taking me for child support. That's like, oh. So I'm
Oh
like,
man.
they make you fill out paperwork to do that. So that's why people stay, I think. Why do you
Okay.
think people stay?
I think it's all the reasons you said. All the reasons you said with it's cheaper to keep her or him.
Hmm.
People also stay for fear of the unknown. Like, okay, am I going to find better out there, or is my situation that I'm in as bad as I think? Like, okay, you may be fearful of leaving and then being single or by yourself and never finding someone. You may have a situation where you're staying for the kids. You're staying for. I always say, David, Donnie saved our marriage in a lot of ways because
Hmm.
when he was born, we were going through, like I keep saying, we were marriage is not an easy thing. So if you're thinking about getting into it, go into it with open eyes and an open heart as well. But you stay because you have kids together that you want to have a certain lifestyle, or a certain, you want the kid to have the mother and the father constantly in their lives. So you it really depends. There's a lot of reasons people stay. I would say if you're in an abusive, and that means physically, mentally, emotionally,
Hmm.
any type of abusive marriage should not. There should be no excuse for why you're staying in an abusive marriage like that. I mean, it does more damage to you and your soul than and children know when they see. So one day I was angry at David and I was like not talking to him, and I'm just sitting in the car like with the mean face on, and you try to play it off for the kids, and Zonnie's like, what's wrong with y'all? So kids know, and they have that feeling. So if you're unhappy and you're in an abusive relationship, then that's something that, even if you're staying together for your kids or for the fear
Yeah.
of the unknown, sometimes it does more damage to you or those around you than it helps. So you have to consider that. But I
Yep.
mean, there's a lot of reasons people stay together, and there's a lot of reasons people walk away. I mean, some people outgrow each other. Donovan asked me the other day why man's dad and I didn't stay together, and I'm like, well, we were young. You outgrow each other. It's something as simple as that, and we're great friends. I mean,
Yeah.
I always tell
Yeah.
each other when David and Christy got married, me and other husband David stayed in the hotel room with them on their wedding night, like not doing anything, but we that's how
Uh-huh. Hey. Ooh,
how close
hey.
it was a sweet, but that's how close we were. We just outgrew each other, and
Mhm.
sometimes that happens. So
Yeah.
we weren't married either, so it was easier to walk away from him.
Well, no, with my first husband, we were like that until he died. We, you know, he when he
Yeah.
came up, he was in another state. When he would drive up, long drive, bring the kids back,
Yes.
I would be like, sleep on the couch. And
Hmm.
I was
I
dating at
remember
that
that.
time. You remember he would always, I'd be like, I was dating at the time, and the person I was dating tried to like make it like, why he always got, I was like, keep your hands off that right there.
Yeah.
Don't even go down
Yeah.
that road. We are not anything, but he will
Yep.
not be getting on this road at night and
Yeah.
having any problems, because if any problem happened, that's my kid's father. So
Yeah.
he was there, and then when the girlfriend came, she came with him. She came in the house. We sitting there talking. It wasn't nothing.
Hmm.
You can work it out.
Yeah.
You can if
And
you know.
you know the kids see how you treat. Donovan and I have stayed at David and Christie's house with man, and they see the camaraderie. I know it's so weird. I know people always say that it's just the weirdest thing, but
No,
they
but you
see
could do it.
the family and the camaraderie. So if you have situations like that where you can have a blended family and it works, then I
Why
mean
shouldn't it? It's
that's the best
over.
thing for a kid. Yeah, that's
It's
the best thing
over.
for your kids, to show
Hmm.
them that you loved each other and you still love and respect, even
Right.
even if you don't want to be with them.
It's
That's what I could
short-sighted
say.
to not make it work, because if it doesn't work, it's gonna affect immediately the kids. It's
Yeah.
gonna affect the kids first if it doesn't work out. So it's short-sighted. I'm not a person that's gonna go jealous over something that's not mine anymore. Um, Now if you mine, that's different story.
I was gonna say it depends on the
Now, if you
situation,
mine, that's a different story.
but
But
luckily we lucked up
yeah,
in
yeah.
that
I wasn't
area.
jealous of
So
her. She was more jealous of me. I would call there and stuff. She was more jealous of me, but I didn't
wow,
understand it, because I was like,
wow,
I divorced you, and I don't want you like that. And we
yeah,
grew up together, kind of. I was 7 or 18 or whatever, and he was 8. We were very young, so we
wow,
didn't have that strife. And I would
yeah,
stay at his house for the whole week. When I would go down there, I would go to his house. I would stay. I wasn't staying in no hotel. I'd be like, I'm going to stay with my baby
yeah.
daddy. So that's how
Well,
it,
shout out to I was gonna say shout out to Christy because she's my baby mama.
Hi, Christy.
She stepped in as a stepmom,
It
and you
works.
know it sometimes people actually love your kid to the point of you're like, wow, you really love my
Well, that's what
kid. Like
Jada, I mean,
she
not
loves,
that they the
yeah,
poster child anymore, but that's what she said when, that's what
yeah.
the wife, the first wife said. She liked that Jada loved the son Trey,
Hmm.
loved him.
Yes,
It put it at
that meant a
ease.
lot.
It made it,
That
it
meant
makes
so
it
much.
easier.
It really
Yeah,
did.
it makes it
It
easier.
meant a lot, and man loves her just the same. And it just like I said, it shows the kids. David's daughter Donnie. Well, I should say her name Raven, which is David's daughter. Not husband David, baby daddy David.
Yeah,
So
she got
it,
guys. She got two Davids.
it, show, it shows them just
Yeah.
how how
Yeah.
you can break up and still be cordial. But I know
Yeah.
the timer went off. This is
Three
video probably
times.
because we
It's
went
probably,
like
yeah.
went like in 70 different
Well,
directions.
when you're
But
talking
we will be
marriage,
having more
mhm,
conversation. Yeah, I was gonna marriage and divorce. Why did I get married? Thinking I could get a divorce like right away if I wanted to, but I couldn't. But
yeah, that'll learn you. That'll learn you. So when you get married, one of your marriage gifts should
yeah.
be an attorney, a stipend for an attorney.
Or a prenup. I mean, if you're coming
You
into
can
the
fight a
marriage with
prenup though,
something
sis.
with you can, but it's a foundational thing. And if a person is fighting you on a prenup and you came into the marriage with certain assets and you just want to protect those assets, what I mean, I would wonder why if we're never going to get divorced and you don't want my stuff, why you have a problem with a pre or post nup? Like I think you should go into marriage as it's a legal what did we call it? It's a contract. And
It's a
when people go
contract.
into contracts,
Mhm.
they have stipulations. They have certain riders that go with that. So why not with
Hey,
marriage?
look, I firmly believe every president and their wife ain't happily married, but they got the same goal in mind. So they just gonna stay married until nobody look at it, then they divorced. Or
They live in two
they
separate
divorced.
houses.
I think divorce is on paper, but there's plenty of people divorced and not literally have broken it off.
Yeah.
They just together,
Yeah.
but they ain't on the same path a bit more than whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
we might have to do a
But
part two to this
guys,
too.
yes, we will. And I do want to invite a male voice on, even if we have him
Yeah,
or her, or not her, him
yeah,
blacked out or as the funny face squiggly thing or voice, because we do need to get the male
yeah,
perspective on some of the items that we talk about. So, if you guys are interested in
yeah. Come
in,
on
in
in,
chiming
join
in,
us.
let us know.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right,
that's it,
that's
guys.
it.
Don't
Don't
forget to
forget, right?
subscribe. Yeah,
Mhm.
subscribe, like, subscribe to Polychicks. The only thing that we're not on to Polychicks
It's
is
YouTube.
is YouTube.
Mhm.
YouTube, which you're watching. So obviously you found us. So Polychicks or two Polychicks, Facebook, Instagram, and we will have our TikTok, our
Twitter
first TikTok.
and
Oh,
Twitter.
and Twitter,
Yeah.
and our first TikTok video coming soon.
Okay. Sorry. Bye, guys.